So, good morning, Fergus. Thank you for joining me. I understand you are a vocal coach, so let's kick off with the most first obvious question, which is what got you into doing vocal coaching?
It's a long story and a short story, and I'll do it very fast. I was an actor from long before you were born, I have to say. And I was first on the radio in 1955.
I had radio back then.
Before your parents were born, Cindy, darling. Okay. My father, I didn't appreciate it at the time. He had this great big Grundig tape machine, and he let my brother and me play with it. And I was 4. My brother was 8. And so we decided to make a Christmas show, which we did. And then my father helped to edit it. And we were singing and we're doing jokes and stories. And then he took it. He was on the Today programme, which is a bit like the television ones now, but it was Radio 4, which was called the Home Service at the time. And everybody listened to it because there was nothing else to listen to, basically, in the morning. There was just the BBC Home Service. Good morning and welcome to the BBC Home Service. So this Christmas recording we made was played on there, and it did the equivalent of going viral. I suppose in those days it would be going plastic or something. I don't know, but it was. It was very popular. So my father used to take me into the radio studios a lot to record a lot of advertisement type things for the BBC and sketches, comedy sketches. And I loved doing it. I just thought, oh, I like this acting stuff. I really like it, because my father was an actor and a radio presenter and a playwright. So it was just in my blood, I suppose. And so I grew up surrounded by people like Sir John Betjeman, W.H. Auden, Louis MacNeice, and all those people in my childhood who were friends of my father's. And then I got a big role in a film in 1962, which made me an international superstar for a few minutes. And don't worry, I did recover. I really recovered. I didn't do like some of the other child actors. Anyway, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Well, yeah, cigarettes, but nothing else. And so there I was, a big star, and I acted for 12 years or so. And then, for various reasons, I went into electronics for years. And then I met a girlfriend in Pasadena. And this was about 18 years ago. She said, Fergus, you should be a life coach. I said, well, I don't know what a life coach is, but I don't want to be one. It sounded so girly. It sounded like counsellor. I thought, oh, that's not me. And then, so I argued a bit. She said, but you're helping people all over the world at the moment on the internet, which was 18 years ago was not like it is now. It was news groups. There was no web. The web hadn't been invented. And so I realized that I was helping people and I could start charging them money for it. I could leave electronics behind, which wasn't my central thing, and go into coaching. Very quickly, within coaching, within a few months, I realized that what people needed was communication skills.
Okay.
And I'd been taught by Dame Cicely Berry, who remains a friend, who's still working for the Royal Shakespeare Company now, and she's 89.
Crikey.
And she taught me to speak because as a small child, I'd had a terribly, terribly middle-class accent. I picked it up from my parents and various friends. And there's some of the great recordings on the radio of me and my brother. Yes, we do penny for the guy, don't we? Yes, we do, Fergus. We raised £9 this year, didn't we? Yes, we did. And the two voices are almost identical. It's very hard to tell it's two people. However, I then went to a local school in Bayswater in London. Right, well, you have to speak like this there, don't you? You have to speak like all the others, don't you? So I was speaking like all the lads. And then I landed this mega role in a film. And Sir Michael Balkan said, yes, but he can't speak like that in the film. Because he won't understand. And Scott, I hope you're here now, Scott. Are you here yet? No? Never mind.
No, not here.
The Americans won't understand him. So I was sent to Cicely Berry for voice training. Okay. Now, let's go back to the King's speech. Am I talking too much, Cindy?
If you're talking too much, I'll soon come in and go, and moving on. So don't worry, I'm having great fun listening to you at the moment. So.
Go back to the film The King's Speech. Okay.
Yeah.
Logue was actually an Australian Shakespearean actor. And what he used the brilliance of Shakespeare. And anybody listening, please, please, please read a bit of Shakespeare out loud. Because what Shakespeare did, he did the voice of the English language brilliantly. He's my ultimate. When it comes to the English language, Shakespeare first, Dickens very close second. Okay.
Okay.
Read everything by both of them, I have to say, and survived that as well. And so what he did, he got the rhythms of the English language Shakespeare down pat, because it's the sound of the voice. So once I started coaching, if you think Logue coached the King, he also coached Churchill, by the way. Now, I didn't, until I saw the film The King's Speech, I knew that Churchill had been taught by Shakespearean actors, but I didn't know who.
Okay.
Seeing that film, I thought, oh, that's where he got it. Logue taught him. Because if you think of the King saying, I name this ship, the Arabella, may God bless her and all who sail in her. Right. Now you think of Churchill. We'll fight them on the beaches. We'll fight them in the air. We'll fight them in the land. But we will never, never surrender. Okay. So Logue taught taught Churchill and the King to use the musicality of the right temporal lobe of the brain to stop you from stuttering, because they both had a terrible stutter, Churchill and the King.
Is that the difference between when they're talking about left brain and right brain talk then?
Yeah. The right brain, basically, it's sort of crude because the language centers are spread throughout the brain, and women's brains listen much, much better than men's brains. And a little snippet for people, a woman can listen to 2 conversations, one in each ear, at the same time. Men rarely can. Men usually have aphonia. And if you think of a right-handed man, and great we're on camera here because I can show, a right-handed man will hold a phone in his left hand like this while he's taking notes. Okay.
Okay.
I'm right-eared, which is great because I'm left-handed, so I have no problem. However, women can listen to 2 conversations at the same time, and research has been done on this. We're talking generalization here, otherwise I'll be attacked. You can listen to 2 conversations at the same time. We can't. However, if you go to right brain, left brain, the right temporal lobe of the brain is creativity, imagination, wild stuff. Okay, music, it's all there. And so people who stutter, they've got 4 things they can do without stuttering: swearing, singing, praying, and I've forgotten the 4th one. That's because they all come from singing, praying, swearing, reciting poetry. That's it.
Okay, so something that's tonally and musical, or having not to actually think about it, as in when you're swearing and you're just kind of letting forth and letting rip.
Yeah, it's emotion, you see.
Just one moment there. We're getting a question from Matar. I'd love him to come in and join us, but the plan for today was to just ask you a few questions, get to do a little exercise, and then open it up. Would you like to open the seats up as we go through, Fergus, or would you prefer to sort of like that we do the questions at the end, or we can mix it up?
Yeah, they can type questions and we can answer them rather than calling them into the room, because I know I want to cover a lot here now to get people really hooked on this free, fabulous training on Blab Radio with Cindy. We've got more to do. Believe me, I could. Well, I won't.
No. We'll save that for the next Blab. We'll save that for the next one that we said we'll do. Yeah.
So, if you go through the generations, mm-hmm. and it's a thing my distant cousin but family friend Dame Judi Dench once said on the South Bank show. She said that she was taught by Shakespeare, and Melvyn Bragg said, "Well, how can you justify that?" She said, "Well, Shakespeare taught Garrick, and Garrick taught Keble, and Keble taught me." She went all the way through to Peter Hall, Sir Peter Hall, and said, "And he taught me, so therefore I've been taught directly by Shakespeare," which I thought was a great fun thing to say, because I would say in my field, and yes, I was taught by Peter Hall and Trevor Nunn and John Barton, and that really helped me to understand Shakespeare deeply, and Shakespeare is a great thing to understand. Going on the voice coaching thing, Logue was the first one who introduced this right brain thinking into speaking.
Right.
And then the next one was my father's generation, who was a speech therapist during World War II. And afterwards, he used to get shell-shocked soldiers to get their voices back by using his training. And then I was taught by Dame Cicely Berry in 1962. And then the next generation is me, basically, of doing the same sort of thing, of helping people to use their voices much more effectively. Now, what I've done I've adapted, which I'm going to tell you about in a little while because you'll ask me, give people some exercises based on what she taught me in 1962.
What, you mean the exercise back then is still as relevant now?
Yep.
Crikey, it's what, 50 years?
Yeah, I've adapted them. Certainly, if you're doing these exercises, like for example, if people listen to themselves on headphones, they will improve their voices straight away, especially if they do, right, here we go, live zero latency listening.
Live what?
Zero latency.
Live?
Zero latency.
Zero latency.
Yeah. Now, if you're using a preamplifier or a microphone with built-in headphone socket, you can hear yourself exactly as you really sound to everybody else.
I don't think I like that.
No, you don't. Most people don't. I can't remember. I won't say who it was because I'll give credit to somebody quite clever and very well off, and I don't need to. But what he said was, and I do this all the time, actually. I say to a room, I say, put your hand up if you love to hear a recording of the sound of your own voice. And usually the only hand that goes up is mine.
Oh.
Now, reason for that, there is a very good reason for that. We only hear ourselves through bone conduction, through the jawbone. Okay, so if you did this now, Cindy, if you rubbed your face, you would hear it very loudly. Okay, I can't hear a thing. But you can. And if I do mine, you can't hear it, but I can.
Okay.
Because you listen.
Is anyone else inside doing that with us?
Please, everybody, rub your cheeks and see how noisy it is, and then look at me and you can't hear anything, right? Okay, right. Now, the reason for that is there are two different reasons why we don't like the sound of our own voices. One is that we are not capable of hearing it properly because our mouth is way in front of our ears, right? And if you think, I'll do it now, right? I'll do it now. Hello, everybody. This is Fergus talking to you. I'm so pleased to be talking to you. Okay, you could barely hear that because I had my back to you.
Okay, yeah.
It's the same with your mouth being in front of your ears. Normally, when people speak to us, it comes forward into our ears, right? But we're in front of our own ears. So it's like we've turned our back on our own sound. Okay. So we only get a realistic sound of what we really sound like when we listen to a recording. And there's another reason for that as well. We've got an audio notch filter in our brains. Now, what that does, it reduces the sound of our own voice. So if we're in a crowd, let's say we're in a big crowd and somebody says, oh, there's that beautiful girl, Cindy, over there. And they whisper it from the other side of a room. Believe me, as soon as they say the word Cindy, you will hear it.
Yeah, I actually do that with my kids and actually tell them the word sweets. It's amazing how they can hear that in another room when they're giving, well, we call it cocking a deaflin in our family. When they can't hear, please tidy your room. But mention the word sweets and, oh, hello. So it's the same principle.
Yes. And it's the cocktail party syndrome, which audiologists couldn't understand for many years. Why do people, because as opposed to when you're seeing something, you can see all the different colors and shapes separately. But sound is a mess. Sound is all mixed up frequencies all at the same time. So why do we have the ability to hear our own name being said from the other side of a room?
Okay.
Well, one, we've got an identification with the sound of our own name. Please, people, come in when you want to. Come in and ask questions. We'll be delighted to see you. What we find is that we've got this notch so that what we need to be able to hear in nature, right, is children in distress, basically, predators, yeah, and food. Okay, I'll eat that, right? Or, it's a lie, I'll run away from it, or pick up the baby and look after it. So those are the three sounds we're listening for. So we have a very, very hard job listening to our own voices, unless we can listen to a recording of ourselves or use headphones with instant playback through a preamplifier or something like that, which is what I do with my clients when I'm teaching them to do exercises, which I will teach you all now.
Go on then.
You're interested? Okay. Right.
Go on, go on. I bet I'm going to put the challenge out to the side lot. Would anybody like to come in and join the seat with me, and come and do an exercise with me live at the same time?
Please.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on, Jez.
Come on, somebody, come in. Be a volunteer.
Yep, just press the join button and I'll let you in. And I have 2 hot seats. So Jez is taking one.
Oh, brilliant. Hi, Jez.
And I was trying to persuade Scott to come in.
Wasn't it?
Hello, Jez.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Nice.
Perfect, Jez. Yep.
Hello, Fergus. Hello, Cindy. How are you?
No,
Good,
thank you. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, sorry about the headphones, but there you go. I've done what you asked. Bald head, headphones. Scary.
Yeah. Thing is, I'm instantaneously making a translation in my head of my own sound.
Yeah.
I can't hear it properly, but I've heard so many recordings of me, it's pathetic, so that I know what you're hearing. So what I feel in my throat and what I feel in my head, I know how to adapt it to be the right sound for you,
Right.
which means I get my inner voice outside. What I really want you to hear in my voice, I get outside.
Right.
And I can feel it through my body because I can't hear it, but I can feel it. And I've done so many recordings, it's simultaneous translation, basically, of my own voice. So, Jez,
Yes.
would you like to do voice exercises?
Yes, please.
Sir? Okay. The first thing we need to do is be resonant with our voices.
Yep.
Okay. And to a certain extent, the deeper it is in a man and a woman, the taller you sound. Now, interestingly, African continent women and African women in England and West Indian women tend to have very rich voices because it's in the culture to release the throat. And so you get these incredibly rich voices from women of African origin,
Right.
which is very powerful. You think Oprah Winfrey, you think Whoopi Goldberg, you think Maya Angelou. They've got such rich, warm voices all the time. And we can hear Ian walking.
Ian doesn't seem to be in this country. Are you in this country, Ian? It's a blue sky.
Yes, I am actually.
Wonderful. Where are you?
Just down in Banbury at the moment.
Ah, almost my old knocking ground. Fantastic. It's a lovely day.
Phrase that slightly.
It's only
not
been
here.
for the last 20 minutes or so.
Wonderful.
I'm going to have to, you for some reason, the sound there is sort of like seems to have taken over the sound of everywhere here. Is there anything that is to sort of like tone you guys down?
This is one of the problems that we've encountered with Blab on the various ones that have been taking part in, that when you're out and about and you're not in one location, it actually picks up all the sound. I mean, I was on a blab with some guys over in the States last week who were doing live blabbing from several conferences, and it was really bad because it was actually picking up all the talk of everybody in the conference hall, but also you had various other people that were blabbing at the same time watching the blab, and it was picking up all the echoes. So that is one of the downsides of actually being in a speaking environment when you're hosting these blabs. If you're not in a sole enclosed location, it does cause problems.
Okay. Can I?
You can
would you
mute
mind
me.
if? Would I be able to just put you in the sidebar for a little bit, unless
Yeah.
you're able to sit somewhere and?
No, I'll jump out and then I'll come back in later.
Oh, that'd be fabulous. Okay.
All right.
I'll see you in a minute.
All right. Bye.
Oh, that's that one. So we've got one other seat open.
Okay.
Let's just do that for a moment.
When our voice is deeper and more resonant, we sound taller and stronger. And if you think American presidents, all but one American president, the one who won the job, as it were, was always taller, except the one in the wheelchair, which didn't count. But the tallest man wins. And if you've got a deep voice, you sound tall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you say Tony Robbins, he's actually 6'7", and his voice is, "Hi, this is Tony Robbins," and his voice is like this, and you know he's big in his voice. He doesn't. Oh, watch us, Scott. Great to see you here. Scott's a friend from the other day. Scott got me in here into Blab very well in his room, And so I'm delighted he's come in today. And he's got such a voice for radio. It's like Mr. Cool American voice. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to do these exercises now with Jess. Yep. Okay, so the first thing you need to do to get your voice deep and resonant is to focus on your solar plexus, where your ribs join, where the ribs join in the center. Okay, you take one hand and you put it there, right? You just put your fingers there, and you palpate regularly. And you go, like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not that sort of blab, is it? Shall I try it?
Well, you just did. It sounded terrible.
Absolutely. So,
no, go lower. Go lower.
So you want us to go like... Hang on, that hurts my throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is get you. Now, when I go and record a book for 5 hours for the National Listening Library, so I've many sessions of 5 hours. If I don't do these exercises before I start recording, I will sound boring. So the first one is that one, and the second thing I've got to be sure of is if you take a finger and thumb of either hand and without strangling yourself, put them on the sides of your neck like this. Yeah. Okay? Now go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, come
he's got a fabulous voice.
You don't spoil it, why don't you? For goodness sake, look how many flipping props you're getting.
That's an exercise for Americans, isn't it? It's definitely not for the British accent.
No.
Thank you, lovely prop person, for my... Oh, I've gone up to 20. Oh, stop it already. That's enough props.
Now, hang on. Let me complete this exercise without strangling yourself. The reason you do that...
What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah?
Yeah.
But is that right?
No,
is that right?
1, 2, 3,
You've got to
4,
get it on the muscle.
Yeah, I got it on the muscle. Okay. And you press, do you?
No, you just touch them to make sure they're relaxed.
Oh, right.
Make sure
they're relaxed. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they shouldn't be jumping out then, really, and sort of like trying to...
3. Oh, that's what you're saying. Oh, right. Okay. You're further ahead than I am, Cindy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's better.
Yeah.
Already.
1, 2, 3,
1,
4,
2,
5.
3, 4, 5.
Oh, right. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, I'm getting a very...
Come on then.
Very soft.
I told you, stop that.
Cindy,
we're going to be talking like this all the time, aren't we, Cindy? Yes. Hello. Hello.
Remember,
to get one of those. Now I know why to get one of those scarf things, so I can do this underneath the scarf.
if you think about a lot of people, I train a lot of people to speak, as you know, do it all the time, and mostly they're executives of companies, and I can train on Skype, I can train on Blab, I can train on the phone or in person. Now, a day in person is quite expensive with me, but it's very intense and it's very powerful. And I've learned that people need a lot more than the quick fix. So I'm just giving you some quick fix start points with the stuff I have to do as well when I go into a studio. Now, the reason we do that is to keep those muscles relaxed. If you think when you're speaking that you need to speak like an opera singer sings. Now, if you think an opera singer can sing for 3 or 4 hours without losing their voice, and a lot of people do a presentation which is 20 minutes long, and then they lose it.
Absolutely.
Because they're using it badly, basically. They're just doing it wrong. Now, Scott has got a very cool American voice. I'm not going to let him speak at the moment because it's so cool. It's Midnight DJ. It's very relaxed. It's very professional. And it's not surprising because he does lots of podcasts and filming. And so he's used to using his voice professionally. And so he does it very well.
I mean,
he can.
There's a difference between just talking and then reading a script and talking. I talk 2 different ways, totally. So sometimes it's sloppy when I just speak normally. But if I actually sit down and focus on something, it's like, oh yeah, it's really good.
See how good he is. His voice is so rich and resonant.
I'll give you 10 props for that.
You don't count out the props, do you, Jez?
I'm slightly pulling people's legs. Only slightly though. It's beautiful. So sorry, as you were saying, Fergus.
Okay, so What we have to do is imagine that to stop us losing a voice when we're speaking, when we're doing a presentation. And remember, when I was in the Royal Shakespeare Company a hell of a long time ago, we did not have microphones. And they still don't at Stratford, I'm happy to say, because I was up there recently. They still don't use microphones. They project very well. And I was taught to project when the theatre used to be a 2,500-seater. Now it's only a 1,050-seater. But it's lovely, and it's very easy to fill an area that size. If you're using your mask, as they call it in opera, you're using your three voices, which is your head voice, your throat voice, and your chest voice. So we've just done a little bit of work on the chest voice. Okay. You've got to imagine that when you're speaking, it's like you're breathing on a mirror. Okay. Huh. You go, huh. So it's like your breath. It's that open. Your throat's got to be that open. Now, if you listen to me now, I'll show you the difference. I'm speaking now with a completely open throat. Now I can close my throat if I want, and I can speak like this all day long, and I know that I'm closing my throat. However, it's much warmer when I leave it open.
So how do you actually leave and keep it so it doesn't kind of close on you? Because I find that when you get stressed or start shouting at the kids, your voice goes up even higher.
That's right.
Sorry, when I talk to my children.
When I deign to speak to them, instead of just hitting them. No, the important thing is, that's another point, very, very well brought up, Cindy, that one of the things I bring up when I'm doing seminars, and if you're training 60 or 100 people at once, you need to get them to understand stuff quickly. So you have to have various ways of getting something across very quickly. Okay, I'd like everybody who's listening, and Jez, you can answer this one. When you get... Now, think back to your childhood, your early childhood. Let's say your father is telling you off for something. Did your voice go higher or lower when you were a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old?
It's difficult to tell. I can tell you what happens now. My voice does go higher.
Okay. So what about when you're a small child and you wanted your mother to give you some extra money from Sweeties? Would your voice go higher or lower?
Probably higher.
Yeah. Dead right on both counts. So that when we're stressed as a small child, whether it's because we want something or we want to avoid something, like, Daddy, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. We don't go, Daddy, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. That will not work. Or, Mummy, I need an extra 10p. Yeah. Mummy, I need an extra 10p. So when a small child is stressed, it learns to get its own way by being younger, by being smaller, by being weaker. And it works with the parents. And so when we're stressed as adults in speaking, whether it's on the phone, in business, or stage, or in a new relationship, our voice tends to want to go higher because it's the muscle memory. Yeah. And the worst possible thing to do, actually. I mean, if I now speak to you like this and say, my name's Fergus McClelland, I'm really happy to be presenting to you this afternoon. I can't wait for you all to No, I'm stopping now. Because what that does, it triggers lots of primal functions, which I haven't got time to cover today, but I'll cover them tomorrow as well if people are coming back. It's up to Cindy. She's the boss of the station.
Would anybody like to have him come back? I mean, just a quick prop, give him a couple of props, and I'm sure we'll have you definitely back. Well, in that case, yeah, we'll do another session.
Right, the next one, yes. We need a range. So I'm going to go through some of the exercises I do before I do a major recording. Okay. Right, here's the next one. We need to make our voice go as high as possible and as low as possible very quickly. So this is what you need to do, is go, wee,
Really?
Okay. If I to do it on FT radio live,
I'll do it. I'm okay.
No.
So you want me to do it? So, wee.
Brilliant. Now, did you notice that you had some gaps there? That's because your mid-range voice isn't fully loosened. Yeah. So what you do, look at your Adam's apple and put your finger across the top of it, sideways.
Yep.
Sideways, yeah? Okay. When you're speaking, your Adam's apple needs to rock on that finger, okay? Yep. Up and down,
okay.
Up and down, up and down.
Like that.
If it's rocking all the time, that means your voice is going up and down all the time.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that seems about right. Yep.
You need it to be going up and down.
I've got it. It's kind of going up and down a lot, I guess. Yeah, when I say right at the end of things like people tend to do these days. It goes up at the end and that kind of stuff. So I'm just testing it by doing that. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it, yeah.
Okay, doesn't work for a female, though.
There are other exercises for you, Cindy, I'm sure.
Sideways. No, Cindy, do not stab yourself in the throat with your finger. No, it's the sideways.
Yeah, there you go.
Got a little one.
Something there. It is there.
Are you talking about the little tiny lump at the top here?
Yeah, exactly.
That
is your example. Absolutely. So yeah.
Apple, actually.
People who aren't seeing, but they're just listening. If you point to one side and then moves that finger back to the top of your Adam's apple, right? So you're literally pointing to one side.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's when you practice going wee wee. You want that looseness of your.
So it needs to go
apple
smoothly up, down, up again. Yeah, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, don't do it again now, but yes.
No, that's great exercise. Love it.
Okay, that's another one. Okay, another one. Because that one's to get your throat loosened. Yeah. Now, what you need to do as well is get your cheeks loosened. So you do that by blowing your cheeks up and then letting it out like this. Like that.
You want me to do it?
Sounds like...
Yeah,
difficult.
Okay, right. Now, the next one, so that's one to do. The next one is... That loosens your tongue.
Really? Okay.
I've been doing this with the kids for years.
I can be good. Exactly. We're good at this, aren't we, Cindy? Yeah, already loose.
The next one, some people can't do it at first, but what's that doing? That's now you've loosened up your cheeks, you've loosened up your tongue to a certain extent. The next one is...
What?
It's true.
Oh my God. Hello, Meta.
Hi, Meta. It's all right. Meta was desperate to try and ask a question earlier, so...
Yeah, I know him from the other day in Scott's room. Hello, mate. I'm talking today. He's quite spaced out. He's very funny. He's in Jerusalem, and he's a lovely bloke with a great haircut. Mater, go for it.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello, I am Mater. I came here. I came in peace. I'm a good man. Please let me in.
Cool.
Hang on. Did you have a question for Fergus Mater? Because no, okay. No.
He comes in.
All right, in that case, then
gone in peace.
He has. In that case, Indy Coach, would you like to join in? Oh, hang on.
Yes, Laurie.
8 hours of the morning.
Hey, Laurie.
So pardon in your circle.
High five, Laurie.
So what time is it where you are then?
It's closing in on 4.
Oh, so your voice can't quite be there yet, or is it? Is your voice there?
East Coast. You're on East Coast
West.
time, are you?
West Coast. Yeah, absolutely. Whereabouts are you, Laurie?
I'm on a rock. No.
You're on a rock.
I'm on Camino Island in Washington State, just north of Seattle.
Wow, cool.
I used to live in England, so
exotic.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you have UK students, and what Fergus is doing doesn't make you look so crazy now. We're the crazy ones.
No, you're giving. I was forced into classical voice as a teenager, and I teach my students at the School of Online Business how to get presence on camera, and including their voice. And so I love the exercises. And I'm going to send all my UK students to watch you guys on your blabs.
Yeah, cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
can I say to everybody?
Wow. I'm like,
okay, everybody else. Do you notice, Des and Cindy, do you notice how rich and resonant Laurie's
voice?
It's
It is.
Years
I'm already conscious now of trying to how to relax my voice a bit more and sort of like take a chill pill.
Yeah.
My voice teacher was very old. I was her last student. She had a 60-year career, and she was old school. And every muscle in your body works when you speak, except these.
Yeah.
And then
actually, you bringing that up, Laurie. you bringing that up, and you are seriously resonant. Your voice is fantastic. I would never dream of trying to teach you anything with your
No,
voice.
you can teach me. There's always room to learn.
So, here's a test for people to do. Okay, if you put your hands out in front of you,
Mhm.
put your arms straight in front of you with your fingers pointing up, right? And you go ba ba ba
Ba,
like
ba,
that.
ba,
Ba.
ba.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel a sort of swelling in your fingertips? Because if you're resonant, you will.
No.
Only when I've dropped my fingers down, but that's probably because of
No, that's
stretching. And then
no. Get it? Okay.
Ba,
I don't want to wake up my husband.
ba. I don't want to wake up your husband either, Laurie.
Speaking too loud as it is.
I don't want to. It's okay.
Oh,
That was
I
that.
do.
That's
Yeah.
exercise.
Sorry, Laurie's
That's
husband.
not.
Chest rest.
oops.
That's not an exercise. It's a test.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right. Here's another one to do. Right. And a lot of these I've invented myself because I've been doing this for 18 years now. Oh yeah. The reason I went into communications consulting from being life coach for about 6 months, because I realized people, more than anything else, they wanted to be able to communicate more effectively. That was the most serious problem that the people I was coaching had. The ability to communicate, whether it's business or relationships, they needed to be able to communicate much more effectively. And I learned lots of NLP, and I've been studying psychology for, don't ask me how long, since 1967, actually. Oh, I've told you now. And hypnotherapy since 1967. What they needed to do was to be able to get their point across in a non-invasive, non-threatening way, to go straight into the unconscious mind of the other person, which is the limbic system and the right brain, not the left brain. Because the left brain is structure and order and criticism and cynicism in good ways. Because if the right and left frontal lobes are working perfectly together, it's a beautiful harmony. But there are times when they're slightly out of sync, which is why the people who stutter, if you get them to ignore the left brain, which is all structure, and use the right brain, that's why they don't stutter. If they're doing music or swearing or praying or poetry, that's why all the stuttering goes, because they're being musical, they're using that part of the brain, and the other bit's going to sleep. Okay, so the next exercise is to make sure your lips are relaxed. So what you do, you relax your lips and you hum so that your lips tickle. So you go, If your lips aren't tickling, you're not relaxed.
Right, okay, so so just go. Yeah, they're tickling. They're tickling. It's good. I can see they're tickling with you, Cindy, and possibly with you as well, Laurie.
When it's even better, your nose tickles as well. The tip of your nose.
Have you seen the size of my nose? I mean, it's like, oh, saliva. Yeah. No. Everything's good.
Those are if you've noticed, Cindy and Joe, both of you, your voices have got deeper and richer because of doing it.
Yay! That's good.
It's that
quick. That's good.
Okay, so
I can't really tell because I can't hear my voice, but I can sort of feel it a bit. So yeah, I can see that.
And by doing those exercises regularly, you will get it more into your muscle memory of your body.
Yeah.
And so it will get better all the time.
Cool.
As I said, Laurie is a classic example of a very, very well-trained voice.
Thank you.
So much. And we've both been trained over many years by experts of the old school. You're right, Laurie, the old school training worked.
Yeah.
And you listen to a voice, and also Scott, who's not here at the moment, but he'll be back, I'm sure. His voice is very rich because he's a radio presenter, or he does lots and lots of podcasts. So he's practically not allowed. And I was talking to him day before yesterday about the richness of Dom LaFontaine. Now, most people probably haven't heard of him.
Nope.
In a world where there's one man who can save the planet, then there's one man and one. Okay, he was the ultimate man for voiceovers, for films, for film advertising.
Yeah.
And actually, he was only a sound engineer at a studio, and the actor couldn't come one day, and they said, "Can you please fill in?"
Right.
And so he did it. And he always claimed that he created in a world, and there was another one who said that he created in a world. And if anybody sees the beginning of the film, The Comedian, there's a sequence with a world where one man. No, Jack. No, not in a world where two men. No. In a world where 5 women. It's brilliant. I've edited it and put my own in when I was doing some presentations, because I've done lots of radio programs, obviously, and I've used it myself. And people, you just change the words of the other people, and you slide your own bits in. But the thing was that the other one's called Douglas, something Douglas. Anyway, the point is that a rich, deep voice is power. That is the main point of today. And what I've given is some exercises to get that power. And if anybody wants to ask other questions,
You have great timing, folks,
for it.
because there's
Cindy?
one here is, do we all have individual techniques sorry, hang on. Do we all have individual techniques we use being ourselves? And rich, deep voices power. Can we make a soft one more authoritative?
Yes, we can. By doing exercises like that. And also, what you've got to... Okay, here's the next one then for everybody, right? When you're doing that, palpating your solar plexus, and you're focused down there for the rich, deep voice. Okay. Now, for the head voice, I know Laurie's nodding away because she knows I'm saying all the right things. For the head voice, you do the opposite. Now, watch or listen, everybody. I'm going to palpate my chest while I'm doing a high sound. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to do a low sound first, and then I'm going to do a high sound while I'm still palpating. And you notice what happens. Okay. It hardly changes at all the high voice. Right. Now let's do the opposite experiment, because what we need to do is have the head voice working very well as well. The mask, as the opera singers call it. Okay. So I'm going to pinch my nose repeatedly. Okay. While doing a deep sound. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, but look at what happens when I do a high sound and pinch my nose.
Okay.
So, now, the reason for doing that is you do the palpating your chest to make sure you're doing a deep, and you pinch your nose to make sure you're using your head voice properly. Because if you don't, it won't be blocked at all. You won't notice any difference. And what that's doing is getting your body to learn to do the head voice and the chest voice repeatedly.
Circus, I'm not even sure. When you say palpating, do you mean just going sort of pushing?
The exercise you did earlier. The one that you did earlier. You know.
Going like this with the tips of your fingers.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that,
but
yeah?
on your stomach.
On the stomach or on the chest? What were you doing just earlier on? Was it on the chest?
Where the rib cage joins, left and right rib cage.
Yeah.
Right where it joins.
The sternum bit.
Yeah.
Where we did it earlier.
Yeah, okay, good. I got it. Yeah, so you
Right.
just...
And palpating. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that bit.
Bang,
You went out of earshot.
That's the deep sound. Whoa type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa. Yeah. So doing that. Whoa.
Pitching the nose one is to get the head sound.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay. If you're going, you know that your head is vibrating.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you do to get that sound? I don't even know. No, like that. Good. Oh, do you pinch your nose, or do you just...
No, you repeatedly pinch.
Right, like that.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
Oh, I can't. It doesn't sound...
No. Yes, no.
What?
No.
What?
Cindy, no. Stop.
What are we
Stop.
doing?
Everybody, it's wild here. Stop. Yes, shush. Wait. Laurie was doing it properly. What you do is you repeatedly 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Not all the
Like
time.
that? Yeah?
Yeah. Squeeze left. Squeeze, let go. Squeeze, let go.
Yeah,
Squeeze,
got
let
it.
go.
Yeah, got it. So, but what do I do in my voice? Am I breathing? Am I breathing as well? Is that the point? Am I breathing out while I'm doing this? Because
Yeah, yes, definitely. But you've got to get the sound into your head.
I can see that. Yeah, I can get that now.
Okay, so that's to get the head voice working. Okay.
Okay.
I hope everybody who's listening is absolutely blown away and is going to listen more.
Fergus, can I say something? Is that okay? I have a rather. I've been told I have a slightly odd voice in the sense that I can project without actually doing too much physical work.
We've lost Laurie.
What I need is, I mean, personally, I kind of need help projecting in the right way, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
So when I've acted, I've got a very loud voice. I happen to have a loud voice when I project without doing very much. And in fact, a guy who was, when I was doing a show, who is a guy who was a producer and the director was telling me that I shouldn't do X or Y because I'd ruin my voice, but actually I wasn't doing anything. Do you see what I mean? I wasn't doing much to project and making noises quite loudly. Do you see what I mean? So that's why sometimes I might have a bit of difficulty understanding exactly what you're saying, because I can project without doing very much. So, but that was really good because I kind of understood sort of what you meant by getting noise out.
Okay, but what I would say, Jez, you are projecting, but let me speak in slow motion.
Yeah.
If I speak in slow motion, you will notice that my voice is actually going very high and very low.
Yes.
It's got a range. It's got a tonal range. Now, the tonal range is what keeps people interested.
Right.
Now, I can just go like this, Jez, and just speak on one note, and I can project that one note very loudly, and most people on the planet will go, oh, shut up. Whereas if I do it like this, and I go up and down, and what I've done, I've taken recordings of people like Richard Burton. Everybody thinks Richard Burton has got a very deep voice. But if you listen to a recording of him, and you slow it down by 40 or 50%, you will notice that it goes up and down. Because you've got to have the tonal range.
Yes.
Otherwise, you get bored. And
I'll tell you, the one person that has really surprised me was Brian Blessed, because his voice is really, really deep. But if you actually see the early movies about him, it's like 2 octaves higher. And it's just amazing that he's actually been able to use his voice to come down, because it's just opened up his whole career.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, of the few actors I've been on 3 different programs with, Brian Blessed is the only one. And he's very, very intelligent. He knows his opera backwards, because he and I both love Wagner's Cycle. He's an extremely intelligent man. If he's moved his voice, which he has, he's right down here, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's a very, very bright man who knows music backwards. And I've got massive respect for Brian. He's also a really, really nice man. I'm proud to say I've worked with him 3 times, and he might even remember me from the 1960s. He's very funny.
Well, we've had Scott, who's been trying to ask a question about how to find voiceover work online. And we've got Tom, who's joined us. Hello, Tom.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, there's a lovely relaxed voice there. Come on. Not much you can do there, Fergus.
That's what I was going to
You need some higher sound.
Pardon?
Okay. Tom, you need to get some higher sounds in there as well. If you listen to me, there's a lot of high sound in there as well as the low.
Okay.
And for voice work online, as a starter for Scott, my buddy Scott, there's a website called Voice123. Okay.
Okay. You write that down. Thanks.
What do you say there, Tom? Sorry,
I need to write that down. Thank you. Voice123.com.
Voice123.
Oh, Tom, you can do those deep things perfectly. Whether you can do ranging as well, I don't know. But for the deep ones, you are a killer. You are really, really good for the deep ones.
Now, Tom, did I see you earlier that you're actually a DJ as well or something?
No, I'm not.
No, I thought you...
Just a geek.
Just a geek.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you talk a lot online then? And I've seen you hang out in the blabs.
Yeah, I spend most of the day on video chat when I'm not working. Yeah, mostly on video chats, either Google or here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Now, just going back to, so the website that you recommend, the 123, is that a good, what's the deal there? I mean, is it a good place to hang out?
Yeah, Voice 123. What they do, it's lots and lots of voiceover people sign up to it, and then they send you examples of voices that are needed for various recordings, and then you can send a sample in if you start to pay to be a member. It's not all that expensive. I don't need to be. I'm doing so many thousands of recordings anyway. Well, yeah, actually, I've done several thousand for one company.
Wow.
So over 8 years, I've done so many recordings for them. Like, I won't tell you how much per minute, but it's very well paid. So I don't need to go rushing off to Voice 123. But it's a great place for people to start if you can do lots of voices. One of my sort of friends from Academy is Philip Banks, and he is an incredible voiceover man who does lots of different accents, and he lives in Scotland. And I was talking to him about a mutual acquaintance of ours via Academy many years ago, Thomas Power, do you remember? OBE. Right, leaving that out. That's an in-joke between me and Cindy, everybody. Sorry. Right. So what Philip Banks said was that just because somebody's got a good voice in one accent, it doesn't make them a voiceover. You've got to be able to do all sorts of different styles and acting and accents to be good.
Okay.
And Emma Clark is another friend of mine from VoiceOver who's given me some recordings, and she's gorgeous. She's a wonderful lady in Manchester. And she's given me recordings I can use for my clients and put on my CDs free of charge because we get on so well. And she can do so many accents you wouldn't believe. You've got to be able to be flexible. Well, going to Northern Ireland, it's very hard to go to Northern Ireland without slipping across into Glasgow. And so you have to get the differences. And of course, I can do Cockney very well. I can do some of the American accents. And then Birmingham. Lots of people say when I'm doing Birmingham, I sound too Liverpool. I learned Birmingham accent by listening to a program long before you were born, called Crossroads.
No. I remember Crossroads. That was my favourite. I remember Crossroads, especially Barbara Hunter.
No.
Diana
Yeah.
Sorry, there was Diane Hunter. Is it Barbara Hunter? Because it was mixed up with Princess Diane. But anyway, we digress.
What I did, I did recordings of, because I was doing this thing called Emergency Ward 10, which is like a general hospital type program, and I was in it, and I played a Birmingham boy called Vance Mallory, and I had to learn a Birmingham accent quickly.
Blimey.
So what I did, I recorded, as an actor, sometimes you've got to learn an accent very quickly. So what I did, I recorded lots of Crossroads episodes and played them to myself on headphones, mimicking the voices to get the accent.
Okay.
If you want to do voiceover, like the chap who was in here just now, I can't remember. He had this great horror film.
Is that Tom? You're referring to Tom, because Tom's also just asked a question of how do you extend that tonal range. So I guess this is what you had to learn with learning your Birmingham accent.
Yeah. Craig, you will have heard my voice on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of voice prompts for companies. You'll have also heard me on LBC, Radio 5 Live, Radio Scotland, Radio Belfast, Radio Liverpool, and Salford City Radio. So I'm not quite sure where you may have heard me.
He's not a UK-tonian.
Oh, well, in that case, Craig, it's just because I've got such a fantastic generic voice that you think you've heard it before. It's the voice of your...
Nice way out of it. Anyway, we've got Robert who's joined us online. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
Do you have a question or?
I was just curious about the topic. That's all, really. I'm sorry if I took a spot that somebody else should be in.
Not a problem.
No, that's a delightful question. I love that as a statement. I just dropped in because I was interested. Fine.
Well, you know, I have a Voice 123 profile, but I've never actually put anything on it because.
Oh, talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, talk about it because it's great.
Right. No, I'm a big fan of that. It's just that I don't have any copy to read for something like that, and I don't know that I could necessarily write it myself.
Well, what you do, as a suggestion, listen to some radio or television advertisements, right? And preferably, actually, if you can record the soundtrack and do your own version.
You know, I am not a professional. Well, I'm kind of a professional speaker, but in the worst possible way. I work at a call center and have worked in a call center for 14 years.
Oh, wow. That's professional speaking,
Right,
mate.
exactly. Professional speaker. Yeah. And I grew up, there's a TV show called SCTV. It was a skit show, and Gary Owens was an announcer on that show. Had a big influence. Do you know who Gary Owens is? Oh, really?
Never heard of
Well,
it.
if you heard his voice, you would probably recognize him immediately just because he has a very, very deep, booming announcer voice. So,
Yeah.
I can drop out if somebody else would rather join.
No.
I just-
No,
No, it's great, Robert.
Right.
For you to come in, and say you've got a Voice 123
Right.
profile. It's perfect type of show, isn't it, Cindy? Don't you think? Some people say, yeah, I've experienced that.
no, it's always lovely to have somebody else, another perspective, because the whole idea of these podcasts is actually to create something which is usable, especially for people who are doing speaking, professional speaking, and the conferencing industry. Because one of the things that I like about Fergus is as he's already alluded earlier on in the show, if opera singers can sing for 4 hours, why is it there are a lot of professional speakers who can't present more than 45 minutes without then losing their voice? So he's actually gone through a few little exercises, and it's very interesting. Even I'm trying to now be a bit more conscious of relaxing the voice and not talking so tensely. So,
in my experience, if you speak with inflection, it actually makes it easier to speak for a long period of time.
okay, inflection, that's the different tones and stuff, isn't it?
Well, you know, people tend to, whenever they talk, they just kind of talk like they would normally, like they're talking to a friend. That's how they're talking. And whenever you're speaking with inflection, you have creative pausing, dramatic, you know, you have different pacing and rhythms that you use that you don't necessarily use when you're having a conversation. You know, and that gives your voice and your vocal cords time to rest. You know, for example, people tend to stutter whenever they speak. The easiest way to get over a stutter, I call them a vocalized or verbalized stutter, because people say They say something else other than as I was saying. As long as you don't say as I was saying 19,000 times in a conversation, they can't even tell that you inserted something there.
What's the usual insertions that you found then that people put, and what else could vocal coaching do?
I have to say, the best thing to come in with is silence. Literally, a pause.
Of course. Gosh.
Because pauses actually accentuate the stuff you say. So if I said to you, everybody, I'm about to tell you something very important. Now, are you listening? Because what I did a pause before and after. Now, let me show you the other version. Everybody, I'm about to tell you something very important. It loses all its power. And that's what Robert's talking about, is you take out the filler words, the ums and the ers and the buts and the maybes, and you just leave a gap. Because that gap is like making a word bold, or two words bold, or a phrase within a sentence bold. And you notice that although Robert is, I'm afraid I have to say, Robert, you're closing your throat up, and you shouldn't, because you've got good voice, and you've got fantastic range in your voice. Did you notice how Robert's voice is going right up high and right down low very, very well? And that's probably his years and years in call centers. It goes up and it goes down, and it's powerful.
Well, I'm not doing my voice right now, so that's why, you know, I work. Yeah, stop reading my profile, please. Right. No, like
Well, so you've been using your voice for professional reasons for 14 years, is what you said earlier? No.
I work in a call center. I do technical support. It's not glamorous, but you know what it is? It is boring. And I tend to find that using inflection and I don't do accents because I'm not very good at them. So I try, the Midwest dialect is very wanted in the world of sound. So like the Great Lakes, Chicago. I'm from Indiana originally, and now I'm in South Dakota. So my accent is a variable in between. I don't do accents, mate.
Might.
Not gonna see exactly. I told you I don't do accents.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah.
I can't do Kiwi, mate. I can't do Kiwi. I can do something.
And every once in a while I do like a throwaway radio DJ voice type thing, but not professionally because that would be embarrassing.
What I would say to Robert, Robert said something which I have to gently and politely disagree with, actually, because he's obviously very, very good at what he does. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing the call centre stuff all those years. He'd be out sweeping the street. It's obviously working well for him. When I'm speaking to you now, Cindy, you've met me in person. You've seen me do presentations and speeches. You've heard me on the phone. Are any of them different from each other at all?
No, actually. You're very consistent. No. I had to think then, but yes, you're very, very consistent.
So if you think, there was one of the great American speakers, and then I'll do a reference to Britain as well. Well, not Britain, Ireland, actually. Ireland. Okay, because I've just been there, you see, with my family. Anyway, one of the greatest American speakers, and I can't remember his name, and he'd been on the radio a lot, and he was a professional speaker, and he was interviewed for the NSA, the National Speakers Association of America, which is a very, very good organization. It's allied to the PSA, the Professional Speaking Association in England, which is also a very good professional organization. Doesn't teach you to speak, but it helps you in building your business. And I am a past fellow of the PSA. So I certainly believe in both of them. And this very, very important speaker was interviewed by the NSA. And they said, how were you so successful on the radio for 50 years? Mm. And people were listening to you every single week. Why? And he said, because I was only ever talking to one person. So that's where I have a disagreement with Robert, that you're talking to one person. Even if it's 1 million of them, you're speaking to each person individually.
Oh, from that viewpoint. So, yes, you've got to actually imagine that there's just one person actually listening, or actually you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah, well, if you think, right, let's say I was saying, I'll do this round the room. Okay, it's great to be talking to you today, Cindy. It's great to be talking to you today, Scott. It's great to be talking to you today, Robert. It's great to be talking to you, Graphics. It's great to be talking to you, Indie Coach. It's great to be... No. It's great to be talking to you today, and you all think I'm just talking to you, which is true, because you're individually, in your mind, creating your own answer. It's a conversation with one person. And I want to use... Scott won't know him, Robert won't know him, but there's a very, very important semi-retired English DJ presenter called Terry Wogan, Irish. Utterly brilliant. And when he was talking on his radio shows, you thought he was just talking to you.
But isn't that because of his voice being so deep, it was relaxing? I mean, it's pretty much like Scott's. I mean, Scott's, your voice I could actually listen to for quite a long time. Robert, I can honestly say with all your different kind of tonalities, inflections, and when I'm stressed out by my tech and having to talk to somebody to actually help, the last thing I want is somebody who sounds like an automated robot at the end of the phone. So I guess this is where the voice for business actually really does come into its own, having the right thing, for the right voice for the right occasion, as I say. Because if I had Scott's voice for tech support, I'd be thinking, no, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But because of it's just so relaxed, there's no sort of like sense as if you're just disconnected, if that makes sense. If I'm actually stressed out about tech,
that's where you get the super happy people, right?
If
so happy those people, yeah.
If you want something that would be a good good speaking exercise, you should check out there's a poem called The Chaos.
Right.
And if anyone can read that, then you are much better than I am. I can get about a third of the way through before I run out of steam.
Okay. Well, there's some good points at the side here. I mean, we've been asked if you have a tip sheet that you can download. So that poem, Chaos, I'm certainly going to make a note of that and check that out later.
Right.
Here's a test for people, Cindy. Right. I had a client about 2 years ago, and I said one of the hardest things to recite is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, there are lots and lots of reasons why it's very hard. And this client of mine said, it doesn't look hard to me. Okay, try recording it. And they came back to me and said, oh my God, you're right, it's really, really hard. Yes, it is really hard. Because it's like, once upon a midnight dreary, as I pondered weak and weary over many a... And it goes on. And it's very, very alliterative, and it's very assonant, and it speeds up and slows down. And if you can't keep going with it, you will die. You will fall over. Because something Robert touched on earlier, rightly, is that you do have to speed up and slow down. Because if you, like I was talking about, the tonal range has to vary. Also, the speed has to vary. Otherwise, people get bored. Now, there's a physical reason for that in your brain. Maybe we'll cover that in another podcast.
We'll do that in another podcast.
Can I read just a little bit of The Chaos so I can demonstrate what I actually sound like whenever I'm using the voice, if it's all right?
Yeah, so show us the voice.
Dearest creature in creation, studying English pronunciation, I will teach you in my verse sounds like corpse, horse, and worse. I will keep you Susie busy, make your head with heat grow dizzy. Tear and I, your dress will tear, queer fair seer, hear my prayer. And yeah, that's like, I love that poem though, just because it's really hard to read.
Yeah. Also, what I'd say, Robert, if
you
don't mind me saying, I'm not criticizing, I promise you. But it's something I did wrong. Okay, so I need to tell a quick story here because I do train people in storytelling.
Sure.
But it's a story that fits what you're saying now. I had a girlfriend about 17 years ago, the one who got me into voice coaching, actually, really got me into first life coaching and then voice coaching. My girlfriend in Pasadena, and I love Pasadena. I love America so much you wouldn't believe. Scott knows all about it anyway, so I won't go on about it. Anyway, she phoned me up one night. I was in London. And she was in Pasadena, and she was very tense. She said, Fergus, relax me. Now, I knew her very well because she's my girlfriend. And I said, imagine you're a kitten, and you're on the stomach of the mother, and you're just there in front of a lovely log fire. And it's so warm, and you can look at the flames of the fire, and your mother's purring and licking you, and you're feeling so good curled up in mummy's belly. All your fur mixing with her fur. She said, oh my God, in her Los Angeles accent. Oh my God, Fergus, that's so good. Can you do a recording for me? Because then if you do a recording, I can listen to it and I can go to sleep. I said, yeah, sure. Night, 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 night. So, off to bed. And I went rushing up to my computer and my microphone, and I got it all set up. I didn't have the huge amount of equipment I got now, but I had a crap microphone and a PC. Anyway, so I did a recording. Right, listen to this version. I've just given you the real version, but this is what I did for her. Picture yourself, a kitten lying against your mother's stomach, and your fur is mixing with hers, and you're in front of a log fire, and the flames are flickering, and you're going to sleep, that sort of thing. Right. So I did the recording, and I sent it to her. I did just what Robert's just done. And I'm not insulting Robert, I promise you, because I got this wrong for decades. Really, for decades. So she phoned me up the next night, and she did have an anger management problem. And she was an NLP expert. And she had a doctorate in all sorts of things. Anyway, she really had a go at me. I said, did you like the recording? No, Fergus, it was terrible. I said, what? I sat there and I recorded it 4 times, and I got it just right. No, Fergus, it was not right. It was terrible. It's like you were talking to a statue, and you were a statue talking to me. You were performing it.
So elasticity.
I performed it.
Yeah.
That's where it went wrong. It was a performance.
So when you're sort of like talking and you're doing radio, and Scott, you're doing podcast. You do podcasts.
Basically.
So do you put on a different voice for the podcast to when you're actually doing here, or when you're talking normally, or?
I wouldn't say I put on a different voice. I just say I'm just myself. I don't try to be anything else. But when I'm just speaking normally, like I'm speaking to you, and I'm not reaching out to people, it says, okay, so when I get on this thing, when I get in the microphone and I put a video out there, I'm talking to potentially, I don't know, maybe thousands of people. So I'll project my voice out there when I care. Right now, I'm just talking. So, yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of difference then. So when you're doing your podcast, do you actually have in mind that you're talking to thousands of people as opposed to just a radio thinking I'm just talking to one?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'll put an effort if I feel like it's going to be long lasting. So, yeah. Kind of like how Fergus does it. He probably gets worried when he gets a client and he tries to do it himself. He's probably like, okay, I'm going to do this the best I can right now. And he's going to focus on it. I'm not focusing right now at all. No. And I look at that chaos. My God, that'd be hard to read.
Right. But it's fun to read, though.
I'm gonna have a go at that in a little bit later. Anyway, I'm going to call a bit of a wrap up to this because it's actually gone on for longer than I thought it would, and I love doing the exercises with you, Fergus. And what I'd like to do is sort of like organize a second blab where we do some of those exercises again and just sort of like see if we can actually see a little bit of progression of changes in the tonality, and actually invite a few more of the people to come and join in with the tonalities as well and have a play, as I say, especially with working out with the business voice and getting that, because I believe having a good business voice is part of your branding as well, especially now we're doing one-to-one the blab and everything else, because I did listen to somebody on a blab the other day and their voice was so high I was like, oh ouch, that hurt my ears. But anyway, so I'm going to just take this off recording and